So LSAT decided to change the LSAT writing in 2024, not just the logic games. So in this video, I'm going to do the new LSAT writing, focus on how to do it well, what law schools are looking for when they evaluate your LSAT writing, and really, just do an example. The LSAT writing is not something to stress about. Honestly, I wouldn't even write a practice one. After you've watched this video, it should be good to just go take it. It really is that straightforward. But we're going to talk about what you can focus on, what you should avoid, all that, fun stuff. So without further ado, let's share my screen and dive into it. Okay, fantastic. So here we got my handy dandy screen. Why is it not full screen? Oh man, it's not letting me. Bad radio. Yeah, I'm not much of a YouTube guy. Those of you that know me know that. Honestly, for retention, this would be really bad, but I don't really care because we're mostly here just to be informative. Okay, fantastic. Back to that. So yeah, so first things first, why are they even having you do this new LSAT writing? Honestly, I don't know. Because like the purposes of the old one are kind of addressed by this one too. When I first saw this announcement, I thought there were way more changes than there actually ended up being. This is not that different from the old one. So it's kind of silly. But basically you're writing an argumentative essay, which you were already doing in the old version. And I guess the idea is to help differentiate how people truly write. So, in the modern age, we have ChatGPT, generative AI, and that can really help you out with your admissions essays to make sure you write very well and cleanly. There's also consultants like myself who can help you make sure your essays are polished and avoid that. However, on LSAT writing, there's none of that. It's just you sitting there by yourself with no help. So this is a way for the law schools to see how do you actually write, because some people cannot communicate in written English, and there's no way to dodge that on this. So basically, I think what they're using this for is just see how you write and how you can form an argument. It's not that crazy. This is not going to get anyone into law school. If you do it really badly, I could see it keeping you out, but it's not something I would stress about a ton. In the past, law schools really haven't used it that much. They might use it a little bit more going forward, but for the most part, after watching this video, I'd feel good about taking it. So let's keep chugging. All right. So yeah, things to focus on. One, write well. The number one reason they're using this LSAT writing is to see how good of a writer you are when there's no one helping you, whether that be software or a person. So this is your chance to, not use big words. Don't have long sentences. Make sure you don't make grammatical or spelling errors because there's no one to save you on this. And some people are really bad writers. They'll write a 75 word sentence. And I'm not being hyperbolic when I say that. And there's no one to save you if you do that on the LSAT writing. So this is their chance to kind of see, are you going to like step on a rake and smack yourself in the face? Additionally, they're seeing if you can follow directions. I don't know how much the law schools will actually look into that, but the way this works is they're asking you a question, then giving you sources with which to justify your argument. So I would use those sources. They're giving them to you for a reason. So if you don't use them, it's kind of not following directions. I don't know how much that would hurt, but I can't imagine it would help. So I would make sure you use what they give you. They do also say you can bring in personal knowledge. On past LSAT writing, that has been a big no-no. No personal knowledge. Now you can bring it in, which is kind of weird if you ask me, but I don't know. It's okay. I would bring it in, but honestly, I would try to keep it to what they're giving you. And then maybe if you have an argument to make, I would do that. And then additionally, you want to acknowledge the drawbacks. With this question, for example, the one we're going to look at is what is the role of college in society, whether it be employment or like liberal arts and educating people about like Aristotle and whatnot. There's arguments on both sides, and you're not supposed to say I am universally correct. There's no reasonable argument against me. You want to acknowledge the drawbacks. That doesn't mean you're being like weak in what you're saying. Like you take your stance, but acknowledge that, there are legitimate points the other side has. Then you want to counter them and say, but here's why they don't matter, just like a lawyer would if you were writing a brief, but you do want to acknowledge them. Also, LSAC was precise about saying you need a thesis in this. I don't love theses in writing just because it's like very fifth grade. Like, here's the 3 reasons why my point is right. But like LSAC says to have it. So if they say it, like follow directions, do it. I don't love it. But also these essays are short. So like it's not terrible. I guess it could be direct. So we will be doing that as we write it, because if there's one thing a law schools hate, it's when you do not follow directions. Okay, so let's take a look at the prompt that they put out. So the prompt here is the purpose of college. And they say, the principal aim of an undergraduate liberal arts education has traditionally been to cultivate a student's understanding of a broad range of important areas of knowledge, from the fine arts, sciences, philosophy, language, economics. These things have been seen as crucial to understanding and participating in the larger world beyond the classroom. Yeah, so it's like, hey, if you go to college, hopefully you leave it understanding the basics of supply and demand, a basic understanding of science, all that stuff. Maybe you're not an expert on all these things, but you have baseline level of knowledge, which I think that's an admirable goal. I don't know if that's what exists as we currently have it, but I like it. Like, being able to say like that's very Machiavellian and have people know what you mean is cool, I guess. So like have that shared knowledge. They continue. Some, however, believe that this kind of education has failed to provide students with the practical skills necessary to succeed in an increasingly competitive and career-focused society. I'd say, I mean, that's a fair argument. Why, like, I'm sure half the people watching this, you're going to law school because there ain't no other job opportunities for your like poli-sci degree, which don't get me wrong, I was a poli-sci major too, so I can say that. I can slander our degree. And there actually are job opportunities for some of us, with just an undergrad. But, it's hard. It's not like engineering where, they have jobs. So yeah, maybe skills do make more sense. I don't know. I'm kind of indifferent. They continue, suggesting we need to reconsider what university programs should look like. Maybe. I would argue it's more of a price thing. Like, I don't think there's a problem with liberal education. Just if it costs $300,000, that's when it becomes a problem, when you can't pay it back. So I don't know. I'm like, okay. They continue. Such proposals are often framed as a pragmatic response to trends in the economy and predictions about the skills, knowledge, and training that will best serve students' career readiness. So we're saying, yeah, people need to have jobs, which of course. Given this proposed shift in emphasis towards skills-based education, it's worth considering what the overall goal of an undergraduate education should be. So they're asking us, what is the goal of an undergraduate education? What do you think? And then they're going to give us several perspectives from various sources, and you get to like consider those and say, does that make sense? What do I think? I'm unsure of how I feel after reading this because I was a poli-sci major and I actually got value from that. Like I think learning about philosophers and how the world works is really interesting. That being said, it's not particularly useful. I don't use my poli-sci degree in my day-to-day life. So yeah, I guess the argument, I can see both sides. I mean, my personal take is that liberal education is great, but it should be in addition to whatever skills you're getting. I was a double major. I also majored in biology. So, I think I don't use that either for what it's worth though. So it's not like that matters, but the point is like, I'm kind of indifferent. Let's see what arguments they make. I could see myself going either way. I will pick whatever I like authentically identify with because that's what will lead to the best essay. But as of now, I'm going to see what those perspectives give me because I have to cite those perspectives. And if the perspectives are really helping one side but not the other, I'm going to go with that side to just make it easy for myself. All right, so let's see what they give us. All right, source one, perspective, an excerpt from a career advice blog. Recruiting talent for a variety of organizations across industries, I've witnessed how the demands of today's job market make the cultivation of practical skills and specialized training more important than ever. So this is on the side of it's about skills. If a student's time at university is an investment that ought to prepare them for the future, all right, so that's a condition. Is that's circular reasoning. We're presupposing what we're setting out to prove for those of you still studying the multiple choice part of the LSAT. Their premise is the point of issue. We're trying to argue what their goal is. And then they're saying the goal is an investment. I'm like, well, I don't know. It's a small thing, but that is circular reasoning by LSAC. So like, I don't know. I'm like just seeing that because that's obvious. But they continue. Then surely career readiness must highly factor into what institution they provide. Right. Yeah. Of course, if it's an investment, then career readiness is what matters. But that's the whole question. Isn't it an investment or is it about liberal education? What do we care about? So that's a silly argument. I'm not disagreeing with their conclusion. I disagree with how they reached it, which is through circular reasoning. So that was dumb. Oh, so sorry. Continuing. Schools that recognize this and adapt will produce graduates who are better equipped to explore a wide array of career paths and who can adapt to changing job roles with ever-evolving industries. I'm like, maybe. I don't know about that. Like, that can be asserted without evidence, can also be rejected without evidence. You haven't actually said that will happen. You're just asserting it, which, like, I don't know, maybe the schools that adapt will have more success. Maybe they won't, though. Like, what? What are we talking about? You have no evidence for your claim that these schools that adapt will have better results. Like, maybe they will, but you're going to have to show that. They continue. That's the way for today's student to make a meaningful contribution to society by being well equipped to grow and change within an economic reality that is itself always growing and changing. But wouldn't that be an argument for the liberal education, which is whatever skills you learn in undergrad are not going to be relevant 20 years from now? So isn't it better to be a well-rounded person? Like, I think this is trying to argue for skills, but this last sentence seems to completely undermine that idea by saying being a well-rounded person is what makes you useful. So I think source one is trying to argue for the skills, but I actually find this convincing me that the liberal education is more important because the society is always changing. So being a well-rounded person is more important. So I'm like, that was a bad perspective. I kind of hate it, which makes me kind of want to argue with whatever this person is trying to provide. But either way, I'm like, okay, whatever. That's source one. So far, if anything, I kind of like arguing for the skill, sorry, not the skills, the liberal arts education at this point, because this seemed to help that. Alrighty, source two. This is an excerpt from the university's promotional brochure. Quote, in college, I began making my way through this world and crafting a life for myself that reflects my values. But what are my values and how did I come to hold these values rather than others? Once I realized I didn't have to unquestioningly accept the norms and values that had been given to me, I was free to decide for myself which values I wanted to hold on to, which to leave behind, and even which new values I felt drawn to. Yeah, but do you need college for that? Isn't that part of just growing up? Like, I think whether or not you go to college, you're going to change your values. Couldn't like the military do that for you, or just like being an 18-year-old regardless? I don't know. They continue. College provided the context in which I could reflect on my values, sure, the reasons and evidence for them, and whether they are the right values for me. Okay, sure. I kind of like that. It's not telling you what to think, it's telling you how to think, or just to challenge your ideas. I don't know that's what college actually does. I like the idea here. I like that college is telling you, like, don't just take things at face value, evaluate why we think them. Maybe I just got a subpar university education, but that is not what most of my professors did. I had a lot of, I think, not arguments, but like, professors that seem to have like hot takes, and then just like, it's true because I say so, and I'm the professor, so accept it. And it's like, I don't know, maybe, but like, why? So I don't know. I disagree with this idea that college provides that context necessarily. It definitely could, though. And I think in its idealistic formation, I love that. Like, that's a great idea. I don't know that's what exists, but if it were, cool. Love that. All right, continuing. Would my classmates and I have been able to test out our ideas and ideals so effectively if my university was focused only on practical career skills? Right, but why is it either or? Why can you not get skills and like challenge your presuppositions about like the purpose of life? Like, why can't you do both? They continue. I don't believe so. Such work requires a dedicated exploration of ideas and knowledge for their own sake. Like, yeah, but is that the most important? Does it matter if you're unemployed when you graduate? Like, yeah, now you're enlightened and you found yourself, but what if you have to work at Burger King for the rest of your life? Like, I don't know. Maybe being enlightened isn't that awesome if you're working at Burger King. No offense if you work at Burger King. I'm just saying, like, this isn't the only priority. So perspective two, also a dum-dum. I've not been impressed by either of these perspectives. So I'm like, I don't know what I think. On to perspective three. Maybe they'll be better. Let's see. Perspective three, an excerpt from a textbook on the sociology of education. Quote, across cultures, higher education has served primarily to aid the process of socialization by instilling cultural values, norms, and behaviors, thereby integrating people into the fabric of their respective societies. I'm like, what? I thought that was kindergarten. Kindergarten is what teaches you to share, not college. Why are we saying higher education to socialization? Like, maybe, but is that the primary purpose? Like, I thought the primary purpose was specialized education, learning really advanced science or math or that sort of stuff. So I don't know. I'm like, part of me, this is LSAT brain. When I see conclusions, I am like, what's your evidence? And when they don't provide evidence, I'm just like attacking. So like, this is what happens when you do LSAT logical reasoning every day. But I'm like, you say primarily, you have not supported that. If anything, I would say kindergarten serves primarily to aid the process of socialization. By the time you're 19, I hope you know how to like interact with people. But okay, I'm being obnoxious. I get it. Maybe I didn't go to enough kindergarten. Let's see what else they say. Continuing, a university degree provides more than just those so-called soft skills necessary for making white-collar work function smoothly, like interpersonal communication and teamwork. So this is like talking about business degrees, like, where you're working at like Deloitte or whatever, which is you need soft skills. What about engineers, doctors? Like, they need hard skills. So this seems to be taking a very narrow focus of the university. They continue. This emblem of accomplishment, the college degree, also provides a social signal that one is befitted to the upper middle class, if not higher. Yeah, maybe in the 1950s. I don't know. How many of you have college degrees and are not part of the upper middle class? Seems a little outdated, but let's continue. By serving as class membership badges, undergrad degrees perpetuate social stratification and hierarchies. I'm like, oh God. I mean, maybe, but also correlation causation, with the result that access to opportunity is determined largely not by merit, but more so by one's ability to conform to a particular set of values, in short, to fit in. Right, but isn't college merit? Like, they're not just handing out degrees. You do have to get it. I don't think it's hard to get a degree, but like the idea that they're just handing them out because like you come from an upper class is not true. Yeah, it's easier for upper class people to get them, don't get me wrong. But the idea that this is not meritocracy, it's not a perfect meritocracy, but it is a meritocracy. So like, shut up, perspective three. In this manner, college places subtle constraints on students that go far beyond the more well-known problem of financial barriers to access. What do they even mean by that? Subtle constraints that go far beyond? Oh, so we're saying it's more than just financial, but we don't say what those constraints are. We say subtle constraints, but we never define them. This was also stupid. What are we talking about? This might be the dumbest one yet. So man, I'm gonna have a hard time pulling from these. So far, I like source two the best because it's saying like the ideal of college and what it should be ideally. But I'm not loving these. So all right, source four. Let's see if it blows me away. Not optimistic, but we'll see. All right, perspective 4, an excerpt from a journal on higher education. The traditional structure of higher education needs a transformative overhaul. Okay, maybe. Let's see why. The modern university has its origins in medieval schools, which stressed rote memorization and obedience to the centralized authority of teachers, reflecting the broader civic and political context of those schools. Yeah, okay, so it's like less democratic, more authoritarian, sure. But in today's world, we don't accept such rigid top-down system in our civic and political life. I would disagree with that. I think people often are like obedient to authority, but okay, sure. I guess let's say we expect citizens to be agents in the evolution of their communities. I don't know about that. I think we expect that as an idea. I don't think in practice that's what happens, but okay, sure. Also, for what's worth, the reason I'm giving my perspective is because when I form my essay, I want it to be authentically me because that's the best essay I can write. If I'm trying to like parrot something that's not what I truly believe, it's going to be really hard to write this in a way that resonates. So that's why I'm giving my opinions. I know you guys don't care about my opinions. I get it. I'm not that narcissistic. Like I'm aware, but I'm just doing it as an exercise. And honestly, you can agree or disagree with me. That's not important. What's important though is that you have this conversation as you're reading through, so that when you get to the like essay forming, making your thesis, all that nonsense, you're ready for it. All right. So either way, we expect citizens to be agents. I'm like, do we? But okay, sure. We continue. Likewise, there's no reason to accept it in our own educational lives. Instead, we ought to honor the agency of students in orchestrating their own educational experience. I'm like, maybe, but 18-year-olds tend to be dum-dums. I was dumb when I was 18. Like real talk, I went to school, I got like a 2.6 my first semester. I was stupid. Like, I don't know if I should have been the architect of my education at that point. I was a dummy. So like maybe, but also maybe not. They continue. Some colleges have begun to change it in the right direction, emphasizing dialogue over monologue and problem solving over sheer information retention. Okay, I like that. So it's like very active learning as opposed to just like listening to some old dude lecture at you. That's good. I like that. This new form of relationship between student and university is critical, where teachers collaborate with students to discover new truths together. Maybe. Where student learning is based on their own guided learning experiences, and where curricula are created around topics that engage students' intrinsic motivation to learn. This moves us closer to creating the flourishing, diverse society we need. Okay, so I like that more, which is like, well, let's rethink how we do education, make it more useful. So yeah, I think at this point I would say, you know, I'm convinced that I like source 2. I kind of like source 4 the most. I think they all have issues with them, but this is the best one thus far. And at this point I would go, okay, so what do I think? What would my thesis be if I were to write this? And hold on, let me find my little annotation. Thesis. So like, what's an idea? Well, so like, I would say the role of college in today's society, paraphrasing the question just like you did in first grade, is to, I would say educate or I would say create well-rounded, or not create, but like help them flourish. I'm going to rephrase this, but is to create well-rounded individuals who are prepared to adjust to the job market and like also participate in society more broadly. And I get that this is a terrible sentence. You don't have to correct me. I'm just trying to like write this down before I switch over to Google Drive. So yeah, we'll rephrase that, but that's the rough idea of what I'm thinking. So I'm like, okay, cool. This is my rough idea, which is that what's the role? My role is we're trying to educate you, but we're mostly trying to create well-rounded individuals. And then being part of a job market is kind of secondary. That's what I've been convinced by so far, because we have source 4 talking about what is the role of education, which is to like challenge ideas between teacher and student. And then I had source 2, which is like, ideally, you're going to challenge all your presuppositions. If you come from a certain place where you get certain ideas, maybe you come from a really religious community, maybe you come from a community where one party, political party that is like very dominant. That's how I grew up. And you get to challenge those thoughts and think about like, does this make sense or not? And some of them might, and some of them might not. And so like having that ability to like really challenge them in real life is useful. So that's going to be my idea, which is I'm mostly going to draw on source 2 and source 4. I'm going to say source 1 is dumb because they acknowledge that it's always changing. So like, why teach skills? The skills are changing. So that's how I'm going to dunk on source 1. And what was source 3 again? Oh, class membership. Ugh. I don't even know what argument they're trying to make here. Like, this is just silly. Like soft skills, hard skills. I don't know. I'm not even sure what this is arguing for. It seems like more of an argument against like from a sociological paper about what is like the barriers of higher education, but that's not what we're asking. We're not asking about barriers. We're asking about what is the goal? Like, what are we trying to do? Not is it accessible to everyone? So yeah, cool. Well, that's my basic thoughts. Let's hop over to Google Drive and start to attack this essay. All right, cool. So we've read our sources. We kind of know what our overall argument is going to be. At this point, we can start writing. I might make a quick outline just for like what structure I'm going to do. I'd probably write this on paper, but for the purposes of making this a good video, we'll write it here. So first I'd have, why is it not typing? First I'd have like an introductory paragraph. So like context, and then quickly put your thesis. This does not have to be long. You can keep it really short. Then I go with reason one, and I would say skills are changing. So why bother with hard skills? That's kind of addressing perspective one. And you like, I don't know if you can quote. Hold on. I should know this. This is a bad video. I don't know if you should quote. I mean, I wouldn't directly quote, but I would just like kind of quote it, like say like according to passage one. So passage or perspective one says that like the job market changes what skills it wants. Additionally, passage two says, so yeah. And then we can just go into like real world examples. So like, AI is changing things, which is pretty fair. So like maybe learning certain skills will not be terribly relevant. If you're a like computer science major, maybe a tough deal right now. But you can keep it real tight. Reason two, like we want a functioning society. So here we're in source four, we were talking about like how we're all participants in our democracy, that sort of stuff. So source four talks about like participation in society. And please excuse my poor handwriting, not handwriting, my spelling. We had another one, which was it source two? Yeah, source two is like building. Sorry, I was in the wrong part. Source two talks about values and like evaluating them. And I feel that's enough for reason two. Reason three, um, I mean, like I'd say like we need this. Like we need people to be good, like educated folks. Like the whole premise of democracy is reliant upon an informed like population. Otherwise, democracy doesn't work. If you have people that don't understand like basic economics, you don't have to like win a Nobel Prize to like vote. But if you don't understand supply and demand, I don't think you should vote. Like, sorry. That's not a take on like one party or the other. For what it's worth, I'm like fairly independent, not because I don't care, but because I try to stay relatively insulated from that stuff. It's not good for your mental health. Um, I get educated around the elections and vote, but yeah. But yeah, what else is there? Trying to think about like where else we can pull from. Yeah, I mean, we're also saying like where else do we get this? So like source two, like where else do you get the chance to do this type of exploration? And then quickly, I would wrap it up. So like conclusion, I'm talking 2 to 3 sentences tops. Like wrap up, mic drop. Okay, cool. Well, let's kind of through this. I'm not going to do this particularly in depth because it's just an idea. But okay, introductory paragraph. You could say there has been recently. Well, actually, I like leading with your thesis. So the purpose of college. I'm sorry, you guys get to see how like I have too much caffeine in my system when I'm working. Fun fact. So you get to see that right now in my typing. So the purpose of college is to create a well-rounded populace that can properly engage in the job market and democracy. I don't like democracy. What's it? I don't know, society. And I mean, I'm okay with even a one sentence first paragraph, just like thesis, drop it in there. You don't have to do that. You can add context, but like your goal is not to get overly long here. And I think a one sentence first paragraph can be really powerful. I guess if you wanted to make you could add in your reasons. You could say like this is because like a well-rounded society or rounded populace is necessary to have a properly functioning democracy. It's also important to create, or I would say it's also less important. Actually, let's cut also there. Little writing tip, if you can cut a word, do, because I'm so bad at YouTube. I'm not editing that out, but I sneezed. So yeah, it's less important. There we have that word also. Often when you're just writing things, you write those like filler words. That's a filler word. It's not adding anything. So try to cut those as you do. I also do have Grammarly here. You can see Grammarly like saying, hey, rewrite that into something else, although it's not going to tell me what the suggestion is. So you won't have that when you're doing your writing, but It is worth it. So it's less important to teach hard skills, since hard skills are often changing. What doesn't change is the nature of society and the fact that a liberal education enhances the function of such a society. And like here, it's just your chance to like show how you can communicate ideas. I won't write out every paragraph. I mean, yeah, that's like what you can see how Grammarly just hooks me up there and fixed it. But so the basic idea, you can see how that's better than what I wrote. I mean, this is what the writing sample is exposing is like, if I was writing something for like, I don't write a blog, but like say I would like Grammarly it because you can. And this is what the LSAT writing is exposing is if you don't have that, it's a chance to really expose it. So yeah, then we'll write paragraph 1. Let's keep it tight. I'll just say like, yeah, skills are changing. So like, why are we teaching skills? Yeah, I'm actually going to cut that. We'll just keep paragraph 1. But then you can go into your reasons, all that good stuff. But the basic gist here is write well. Let's actually clean up this first paragraph real quick. We won't use Grammarly exception recommendations, but is there anything else that we can do? Oh, okay. So instead of saying this is because, we could say a well-rounded populace is necessary. So that's stronger. You can see instead of saying this is because, we just go right into we need this. It's more authoritative. It's stronger writing. And remember, that's what we're trying to do here is we're trying to show them how we're a good writer. So I'm not using what Grammarly is telling me. I'm just using what I can fix. Okay, it's less important to teach hard skills. I don't love that. I mean, I might just cut that and like put that. Like I'm keeping that, but let's like throw that in paragraph 1, like or reason 1. So like we would still use it, but move it because I want to keep this first sentence clean and tight, or not sentence. This first paragraph. It's necessary. But now that last sentence doesn't fit. Huh? How would we structure that? Yeah, we'll take this down. We're gonna keep this, but we're gonna throw it in paragraph 1 as well. But then what we're gonna do is we're gonna change democracy here to society, and then that's our full paragraph. But now I don't like that we have society there. Properly engage in the job market, society. This well-rounded. Is that wrong? Yeah, no, that's not grammatically wrong. It's changed. It's fine. Okay, yeah, it's okay. So yeah, that'd be my first paragraph, and hopefully you're seeing how it changed. And then I'm moving those reasons down to paragraph 1. But the idea is, is this perfect? Honestly, probably not. I haven't written an actual like 5-paragraph essay in years because I'm an adult now, and you don't do that as an adult. I write books, but I don't write this sort of crap. Which are on Amazon, by the way, if you want to find them. Or I have free books, which you can check out on my website, both on admissions and on the LSAT. I'll link them down below in the description. But basically, let's go back to our ideas and I'm not going to write the whole thing because you guys don't want to stay here for 25 minutes while I do that. But let's revisit like what we're focusing on. 1, write well. Really think about your sentences and how you're using them. And remember, this is not going to be a 1,000-word essay. Keep it tight. Like you saw how long my first paragraph is. I'd say how many words was that? Tools, word count, 31. And that's not bad. Like that's fine. We're trying to get to the point. We're not trying to like win a prize for longest essay. We're trying to convince them that we are a good writer. Then paragraph 1, maybe twice that length, if that. I'd say paragraph 1, maybe like 3 sentences. Same with 2 and 4. So like that's another 9 sentences. And then our conclusion is probably 2. So that's what, 292, not a math guy, but that's 13 sentences. You don't want these to be particularly long. So make sure those sentences are good. You have 35 minutes. So you can take time to make sure that they're written well. Are these written perfect? No, but they're to the point, they're direct. The reader understands what I'm saying. You don't want your reader having to think while they're reading. If they have to think too much, that means you wrote badly. Like you want it to be very natural and flow. So yeah, that's my advice there. So write well, also use the sources. It's fine. Like we went here in the kind of personal arguments to make it the argument I resonated with, but you do want to be using their sources because they tell you to. Also gonna say have a thesis. Yeah, that's not like the standard thesis, which is the purpose of college is to create a well-rounded populace because reason 1, 2, and 3. I don't think you have to be that formulaic. So yeah, do this. And yeah, overall, that should give you a pretty good idea at this point. Honestly, this comes down to your skills that you've built as a writer. So execute. I wouldn't stress about this too much. Just make sure you do a good job, be intentional in what you do, and be true to yourself. An authentic essay will just be stronger than forcing yourself to like say college is useless or college is great if you don't believe it. So find what you resonate with, write that essay, and write well. Just like if you don't have Grammarly, get it, because what Grammarly will do is it will train you in your writing, is it'll teach you like what you do badly. I use the word just. Like for example, maybe here I'd say just necessary. And that's bad. I shouldn't say that. It's a filler word. It's not doing anything. Same thing with also, which I had. So you kind of learn those things. We all have our tendencies that we do, and Grammarly will like whip those out of you. So get it. I promise you it's one of the best investments you can get. You can't use it on LSAT writing, but the way it trains you in all your other writing will then make your LSAT writing better. Overall, though, this is not as big of a change as I anticipated. This is really not something to stress about. I wouldn't even practice this. If you watched this whole video, don't know how many of you will have, but if you did, you should be good to go. And yeah, I hope it was helpful. If you ever have questions, you can email ben@lsasimplified.com. You can also go to the link tree down below to check out kind of everything I'm up to with LSAT and admissions. And otherwise, good luck on the LSAT writing.